Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you are involved with another person romantically and one of you is a Taurus and one is a Libra. So is this a compatible type of relationship? And I just did another combination. I can't remember what I just did, but I was just, oh yes, Sagittarius and Capricorn, and I said that I don't know two people like a couple that are that combination, and I don't think I know a Taurus and Libra person. So I had wanted to mention on that video, if you're in that relationship, please let me know how it's going. So I'll say that to you if you are either a Taurus and Libra involved with the other sign, and you want to share how you've been dealing with that person. I'd love to hear it because I like to observe the people around me and look at it from an astrological standpoint, just looking at them as individual signs, sun signs, and then how they interact with others, especially with love relationships. And I don't think I have that combination in my personal life with people I know. So I'm going to start by talking about some of the things that they may um, that they might do for each other that might be good, or what they might both have in common. I don't think I mentioned what each could do for the other, and I probably should pause this and put down a few of those. Maybe I'll just say them off the top of my head, but I just want to talk about it just very briefly. Is that what we're talking about here are a sign like Taurus, which is an earth sign, a fixed earth sign, and Libra, which is a cardinal air sign. And so that's also something you look at too, is like, what are the elements involved? What are the modalities? The modalities meaning fixed and cardinal. Because a fixed sign is very set in their ways. And they don't, it's not that they are controlling of others. They might be controlling of life itself because they don't like change very much and they're always trying to keep things predictable. So there is a controlling element to that, but they're not necessarily trying to boss other people around. But by the same token, they don't like to be rushed, or especially Taurus. And I have Taurus rising, and you want to piss me off, try to make me do something faster because I don't like that at all. And and that includes talking faster. When somebody says, "Oh, you're the way I'm talking," but it's like it's just the way I'm thinking and talking. So that kind of thing. And the cardinal modality is very take charge, very much a catalyst, a doer, not just a talker, a doer. So sometimes when you get those kinds of mixed modalities, there can be different ways of approaching life, and that can kind of irritate the other person. So, anyway, let's talk about what they both have in common. First of all, they're both ruled by Venus. They have something specifically in common. So, this reminds me of the Empress card in the tarot because that is connected to Venus and therefore to those two signs. And if you think about what the Empress represents, there is that one of the main things is because of Venus, there's a sense of abundance, the sense of pleasure, sensuality, and yeah, pleasure. So both of these signs being ruled by Venus, I think especially makes their aesthetic. I can never say that. I'm always afraid I'm saying it wrong. very on point. So in other words, they have this innate understanding of what beauty is all about. And this can be that color is very important to both of these individuals, balance in, different aspects of the visual presentation of things. Some people just don't care about things. And for like a Libra person, I would say Taurus is not as anal as Libra, but a Libra person can get very unsettled or imbalanced. Remember that Libra is represented by the scale, so they have to be in balance. And if a Libra person is in a room that the color is a little bit off, like it's too bright or it's too, I don't know, dark a shade or whatever they deem it to be, that can really bother them where somebody else can let it go. And it's like I just said, I have Taurus rising. I don't have any Libra, but I have Taurus rising, and I am very, very in touch with color, and I do feel that color can affect us. And so I appreciate it. And I've known my fair share of Libras in my day, and I know how they are about the visual. It's very important to a lot of Libras, the visual. And lucky for both of these signs, each one is likely to be physically attractive, even though we would look at the ascendant for that. Especially as a person gets older, they may grow into their sun sign, and that could be that they start to get better looking as they get older, better dressing. They might go through some rebellious phase. So let's say you have Aquarius rising, and when you're young, you're just wearing, from my era, it would be like blue hair and all these different kinds of, like, maybe it's like punk clothing or something like that. And then the person grows into their Libra aesthetic, and they become much more tailored, much more elegant. So they go from that. Now they may still have some elements of that kind of new wave style, but they have kind of toned it down. They've made it more harmonious and things like that. With Taurus, it's more earthy. So it's going to be more, almost like more sexual. So like, for instance, a woman may be very revealing in how she dresses. There's a difference between how a Taurus woman dresses and a Libra woman. The Libra woman will tend to be more understated, and the Taurus woman will let it all hang out. And, I could see like a Taurus woman having body positivity, even if she's a little, quote unquote, thick. She might, wear very skimpy outfits because she feels like, if you've got it, flaunt it, and she's got it and then some, you know what I mean? And so there's that tendency, because Taurus is an earth sign, to really be embodied. And I think of Libras maybe sometimes not being in touch with the body as much. And so there's almost like this ethereal type of beauty that you can see. And it's both beautiful, but it's just different types of expression of that beauty. Now, I put here both signs are into harmony. They're lovers, not fighters. And this is, again, that Venus influence. And this is really good because there's a mellow quality. Maybe they both value quiet music that is very mellow instead of just rowdy and all of that. Because some people, let's say you're talking about a fire sign, they might be very into like hard rock or maybe rap music, something that gets them really into this rebellious type of mood. And these are two signs that might really love easy listening, things that are just classical, things that make them feel chill, not agitated, and this can be a lot of things that they do. Maybe they like to go someplace that has a beautiful view. So going to an ocean or a lakefront and just spending time in nature, especially like Taurus. So that's one thing I would say is that Taurus may introduce Libra to the joys of things like camping. I was just thinking Libra would probably prefer to glamp, glamour camping, glamping. But Taurus might like to rough it and be in that environment. And Libra might prefer to look at a painting of some kind of outdoor scenery rather than be there. Oh, this is the point in the reading that I want to say. Some of these things I'm being a little over the top. And I'm also, making these generalizations. I just posted a different video and with, two signs. And so I got that same thing that I've gotten before. Well, my sign is blah, 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 and you don't understand, or, it's not like that, and it's all these great things. And, the 12 signs are all the templates. They're archetypes of certain character traits. And it never means that you're going to have that purity, that you don't have influences that compete with that. Because these are just the sun signs. Now, the sun signs are very, very important overall, but they're not the only influence, and that's just the bottom line. But they can offer a lot. Even if the person doesn't feel that they are embodying some of these qualities, they may be, and they just don't know it. And it could be affecting their way of perceiving life. And when somebody comes along that you are attracted to, and yet they have such a different way of approaching life, the human nature is to want to make one of those people wrong. And that's what I'm trying not to do. I'm trying to say they just have a different way of looking at the same thing. And it's never meant to be some kind of indictment against a relationship. If you have a great relationship, you don't even need to be listening to this. But I understand why people might, just for the heck of it. Maybe it just interests them. But there's always going to be things that attract one another. But there can be, depending on how different the types of people are, there can be almost so many differences that it's hard to kind of clear that hurdle, because it's just there's so much going on there. So just wanted to bring that up. So there could be both love of peace and love of beauty. Both may be attractive. Both may like nice things. And this is also important. And I put also that you might both make a good living, because people who aspire to own nice things tend to attract the kind of earning power that would give them that ability to buy those things. And so if both of you are making bank like that, then you can buy each other things, and you don't have that same stress about money, because you have enough to pay your bills and then some. And usually when people fight over money, it's because the one person is worried that the money is not going to cover even the basic bills. Yeah, there are some people, and I would say like a sign like Capricorn would be a big one, that might get upset if it's any kind of what the Capricorn person perceives as wasteful spending. But look at that. I mean, that's a perfect example of how two signs can be, very, very compatible on paper, but when it comes to actually being in relationship, they may have a big bone of contention in the area of money, because Capricorn may be saying, you can go to the Goodwill to get your clothing. You don't have to buy these designer clothes, or you don't have to spend this money to do this. It's not worth it anyway, and that kind of thing. And this is also a good time to mention that Taurus is an earth sign and Libra is an air sign. So earth is very familiar, comfortable around the material, in the material world. So therefore very practical, grounded. And air signs like Libra are not grounded because they're air. And they can be quite, you hear the term airhead. And it's interesting because there were women in Hollywood who played airheads. One of the biggest examples is Marilyn Monroe, but there was another one too. And she was an air sign. She was a Gemini. So they're perfect at playing these kind of... Another example is Suzanne Summers, who's a Libra. And they play dumb. I mean, they can play dumb really well. And I think it was... I'm trying to think if it was... Gracie Allen, who was George Burns's wife. And for anyone under the age of probably 50, you might not even know who George Burns is, even though he's a legend, you might not know who he is. But anyway, his wife, Gracie Allen, that was way before my time with her. But I've seen her, how she talked like in that type of very, like Betty Boop type of voice, I think. And she was an Aquarius, if I'm not mistaken. And I think she had a famous quote, it takes an intelligent person to play somebody who's stupid, or something like that. And so the point is that air is ungrounded, it's up in the ether, and it's very intellectual, it's very intelligent. And not to say that a Taurus person can't be smart or even intellectually inclined, because if your sun is in Taurus, you may have inner planets in Gemini, and that could easily make you much more like a Gemini type of person. But the classic Taurus is what I like to label as meat and potatoes. Very basic, and when I say basic, I mean uncomplicated type of person who has just very simple tastes, and is just, what you see is what you get. And that's what people love about this individual or these people, is that there is a very down-to-earth quality about them, and there's no pretension there. And so Libra can help Taurus become more intellectual, maybe read more books if the Taurus person has somehow kind of shied away from that. Maybe once they began to go into work, after their teens, and they started to work, they just left that side of themselves. They just let that go because they were busy on other pursuits. But Libra can encourage Taurus to nourish their minds. Taurus definitely believes in nourishing the body. Taurus loves to eat and loves good foods. So Taurus may take pleasure in those kinds of material, that kind of material enjoyment. So I wanted to mention some of the things. I want to just double check here to see if I'm missing anything, because my screen disappeared here. Oh yeah, one thing that I feel is that music may play an important role. Now I'm just coming up with these myself. I just feel like Taurus has a great singing voice. Taurus rules the throat. And so this combination, they may have a love of music that goes above and beyond what the average person, how they interact with music. And so this may be a big passion that both of these signs share. And the reason this is important is that when you find that individual that you have an affinity for music or some other kind of higher pleasure, that's very special. Now let's talk about some of the challenging things. Taurus may feel pushed around by Libra because Libra is a cardinal sign. Taurus may feel rushed or pushed around. Libra may have that kind of sense of urgency. Libra may not be so slow moving or things like that. I don't know if I have read either way on their the way they carry themselves, but they may instinctively know that by just being, doing things, all cardinal signs, the four cardinal signs are Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn, and they just believe that doing things can make things happen. And I think overall the answer to that question is, or the elaboration of that statement is, yes, that does seem to be the case based on my experiences. So a Libra person may not even know what they want, but they know that if they take some action in the direction of the things that they want to accomplish, they feel like they are getting the ball rolling, so to speak. Taurus can be a bit of a couch potato. And so, like, let's say Libra gets into jogging or some other type of exercise. You might have you might have Libra. Libra, being a cardinal sign, is always on the go and always wanting to do things. And Taurus is really chill. And of course, again, this is going to depend on other factors because Taurus may have Mars in Aries or Mars in Gemini and have more of that kind of like wanting to do things a lot and being more active. But I'm looking at these from the actual templates of what each sign represents. And cardinal signs are just real doers, and fixed signs really like to maintain the status quo and be consistent in their behavior in that sense. And because Libra is an air sign, they are concerned with the world of ideas, so they may find Taurus anti-intellectual. We're not talking about intelligence, but the desire to obtain more intellectual stimulation. Taurus is an earth sign, and so Taurus is very connected to the five senses, to the natural world and anything that is tangible in life. Air is intangible, so there's that. I don't know if I'd call it a clash, but that different type of way of perceiving life. And by the way, these two signs form an inconjunction, which means that they're 150 degrees apart, which is a very weird angle. And this is when you get two elements that are not considered compatible, like earth and air, because they're just like too different. However, I will say one thing that they both have that might be something that they agree upon temperamentally is being more detached. The earth and the air elements are more concerned with living life in a rational way rather than emotional, like water especially, but fire can be very passionate. And that can be, sometimes it can be too much for both, either one of these elements, that kind of getting riled up about things. That's just not something that necessarily appeals to air signs or to earth signs. Libra may find Taurus too boring because there's that predictability factor, which we could say is reliability, and that's a positive thing. But air is, there's a density to Earth, and that can feel very limiting. I would say, not light enough. Not air can really circulate. So there's that ability to gather forces, gather ideas, and maybe sometimes Taurus seems too set in their ways and things like that. Again, this is not to say that Taurus is boring. Taurus knows how to have a good time, for sure. But, maybe in terms, again, when we talk about being witty, being the things that Libra is, or that Libra might crave from another person, conversationalist. If Taurus has Mercury in Gemini, they may be very witty. But if they have it in Taurus, they may not even like to talk too much. They may like to conserve their speech for things that are practical and meaningful to them. Now, if Libra gets involved with a Gemini, they may have their ear talked off. And maybe that's excessive speech. So it's not to say that one is superior to the other, just how they may feel that they're not getting their needs met, And the same can apply to Taurus. Maybe they think Libra is too up in the air. Both signs may be passive aggressive. So when problems arise, they may be reluctant to bring up these issues, and they may express their displeasure in indirect ways, and that's not really a good way to deal with conflicts as they arise. It's always better to be honest about it, and I would say too that both of these signs might be afraid of their own anger or other people's anger, and so that's why they avoid conflict. And anger in and of itself isn't the problem, it's the way it's expressed. And so encouraging the partner to feel comfortable to share anything that is bothering them is always a good thing. Now, this could apply to anything in their life, not just anger. They may try to put a nice face on life, even though in life sometimes there are anxieties, disagreements, and it's the contrast, but it's reality. So having both of these signs being able to acknowledge that and not feel like they have to be inauthentic in any way is very important. But when they're together, they may reinforce that erroneous viewpoint, and it just allows problems to fester. So that's kind of what I feel can trip up that combination. But again, people find ways to adjust and make things work. So if you are in this type of relationship, whether you find it very satisfying or you're having problems, I'd love to hear from you if you'd care to share, because like I said, I don't think I know any combination between these two signs. And if you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.